We are live. Welcome to Iron Rations. I am Eric Tenkar. With me, as usual, is my co-host, Joe the Lawyer.
Hey guys, how you doing today? Hope all is well, and welcome to the show.
Sit back and relax. Enjoy the show. I feel like we're gonna be watching some movies, boys and girls. Get your popcorn. Get your homemade Fireball whiskey. And we'll get her done.
Redneck, what do you got? You got whiskey there?
I have Tullamore Irish whiskey.
All
However,
right.
it's been aged for 6 days with cinnamon sticks and has been sweetened with liquid stevia. So it tastes like a lot like a Fireball whiskey.
But
less horribly oversweet and no chemical aftertaste, and it's based upon an actual decent whiskey as opposed to whatever swill they used to make the Fireballs, and it doesn't have all those sugar carbs. I don't.
True. Yeah, I have. I'm not going on with the Captain Morgan Private Stock. That's the best. I tell you, I've tried all. I'm a rum guy. I tried all the various rums, even the high end rums. And the private stock, Captain Morgan, puts that's the best for my taste. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. Yeah, I like it.
I remember. My God, I'm going to go back about 20 years when my son's mother went to Puerto Rico to visit family, and she came back with some Bacardi that she got from the distillery where they make the Bacardi.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it was. Bacardi Platinum or some shit. I mean, it was spot on, and it lasted for years only because I kept on diluting it with regular Bacardi.
Oh yeah,
so,
make it last longer.
Yeah. It still is, right? It still is. No.
That's funny. You serve the high end stuff. You put the crap stuff in a high end bottle.
Isn't that what a lot of the lower end bars do? It's like,
oh yeah,
they'll never just pour it.
Yeah,
pour it in.
Know. They'll fucking never know. Exactly. Lower end bars. You mean dive bars? I think, right?
Yeah. All right. I was trying to be polite.
No, that's my dive bars are my sweet spot, man.
When they have the sawdust on the floor, not just for the puke, but for the blood. Those are first.
I moved to a new town. It's a lot nicer. Way nicer. It's more, I don't know how to put it. It's just more money up here, I guess, whatever you want to say.
More genteel.
I guess, yeah. And it's pretty cool. I got grass and birds and shit. It's a whole new thing for me. But anyway, it's a whole different thing when like my brother's like, yeah, because it's where he lives. And it's like, yeah, just come to this bar. It's like the dive bar of town. And I'm looking at it like, this is where you got to wear a collar. Something diving about a place you got to wear a collar. There's got to be. I said there's got to be the 3 Ds. You got to have a hint of danger, a hint of decadence, and a hint of depravity. You know what I mean? There's got to be you got to be something to make it a dive bar. Like you got to have those 3 Ds in there.
Yep. And then you generally throw in cheap on top of that because why else?
Cheap, yeah, definitely cheap.
It's like, oh wow, you still got $4 pints.
Yeah.
Oh wait, they're not really pints. You're just popping open the 16-ounce can of Coors Light that's in the cooler behind the counter. Okay.
So we got 4. We got 4 people here, dude. We're not talking about shit. We got 4 people. Not too bad.
I know. We're killing time, and we don't need to kill time.
Yeah, and guys, we actually are going to talk about something this week. Last time we just kind of talked and it never ended, and we ended, and that was the end of the whole podcast. But yeah, today we're talking about shit.
That's because our audience was giving us so much stuff to talk about other than what we intended to talk about. So we got greatly derailed. So who knows?
All right. So what do you want to hit on? How about the Dungeon Master, the Professor Dungeon Master thing?
Professor, now, I do not know the profession. The profession.
Professor.
The professor. I know the profession of Dungeon Master. I don't know the professor. of Dungeon Master.
He's
So
a good guy.
explain what this gentleman is.
Dungeon Craft. And he's a dude from I don't know, Long Island, Staten Island. He's from New York, and he's
already dangerous. But
okay. Yeah, he looks like he's a teacher in real life, and he's got a channel. I think I talked about it before called Dungeon Craft, and he calls himself Professor DM or something. But the dude's got really good stuff. Now he put out I'm a Patreon of his because I think I don't back too many people on Patreon. I got to say. But I think his shit is so worthwhile. I absolutely do, because he has also some exclusive content. And he did a video recently on the Matt Mercer effect. Now, without going into all that, we could go on for a free podcast with that bullshit. But one part of it I wanted to talk about that was really interesting. He talked about, see, everybody focuses on Matt Mercer and as a DM and what he does good, what he doesn't do good, and his effect on the game and this and that. And this guy analyzed that, but he also took a minute to analyze the players in the game and why they make a difference to the show itself. And right. He brought up about 6-7 points, whatever, about the players and why they're good. And I was like, that's good shit. And like 4 of them really rang true to me. Like, this is absolutely true. And if you think about it as a DM, these are probably things that pisses you right the fuck off. You know what I mean? From your players. So I figured we can hit on some of these. All right. All right.
Fire away.
Number 1. He says, and this is, he just listed a lot of shit, and I put him into category. So number 1, no one's late to the game, and they don't like sit down and just start eating Subway when they get there, and they don't start talking about their work or their kids. Now, granted, they may do that before the fucking broadcast starts.
I was about to say, because let's be honest. Now, these broadcasts aren't live, right? They're recorded. Yeah. So, and there's going to be editing going on. So, to be honest, whenever one of my online groups gets together, geez, it reminds me, I think I've got Greg's playtest tomorrow. I better not forget. Cool. Yes. But whenever these groups get together, at best, your first 10 minutes is spent bullshitting and people logging in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially, it's one thing when you have a group that sits down physically amongst each other and say, all right, listen, we're starting at 8 o'clock. Because I'll be honest with you, when you have a physical group, 9 times out of 10, everybody is there early because you got to take into account traffic and driving and
exactly
however you get in there. So you're going to generally arrive early, because if you don't, you could arrive late or not at all. Mm-hmm. And that bullshitting happens in that time prior to kicking off the game.
Yeah, and then you hop into it, But it's true when players just show up later on, or even a little on time, they break out their fucking Subway, start talking. It's like, oh my gosh, shut up. That's especially it makes me wonder: is it better to have a group of players that aren't friends in a sense? Like, you ever do those game store or convention games? There's no bullshit. You just sit down, you fucking play, because you don't know each other that well. There's not a goddamn thing to talk about. You know what I mean? You just sit down, you start playing D&D. I kind of like that when I ran the games at the game store. That was nice.
Well, you know what? There is a good point to it, but at the same time, when you have a steady group that has bonded, there is an additional aspect to it. Now, with Matt Mercer's group, these people have bonded. They know each other, and yes, a lot of this stuff is scripted, but a lot of it is, at worst, I'll call it improv, and otherwise I'll call it legit role playing and the legitimate aspects of the game coming through on the show.
That goes to the second point too.
Okay,
he talked about improv. He says the thing about these players is that they don't interrupt each other when it's another player's turn. They know when to let other people have the spotlight and have their moment, and that comes from their being improv actors. They're right. So that's what improv is all about. You throw out some bullshit and let the other guy go now, and then you got to feed off his bullshit, right? And the other thing is that they don't interrupt the DM. It's sort of tied to that. They don't interrupt the DM, and they don't undermine him. The biggest interruption he talked about was when a DM pauses for a beat and is about to say something dramatic, and a player, you're trying to set a mood, you're trying to set a theme or a tone or something like that, right? And you're at the dramatic point, and then the player takes your pause to crack a fucking joke and breaks the whole goddamn mood. Pisses me off.
Geez, well, that would be me probably.
But it pisses me off to no win. I probably do it too. But
but here's the thing too. When you have a steady group, when you have a group that has learned the ebb and feel of how a game session goes amongst that group.
Yeah.
They learn how to work off each other and not necessarily step on each other. And they learn when their DM is pausing for dramatic effect, or if their DM is having a brain fart. They generally can realize that. I think that in the the Mercer games, that is not just taken an account of, but let's be honest, violations to that are being edited out.
Yeah, probably. Although like I said, I watched 2 videos of his because I wanted to, I think it's 2 or 3. I wanted to see the one where that Joe, what's his face, Manganiello was on there and stole the hand of Vecna or whatever the hell it was. So I kind of wanted to see that, right? So they didn't seem to edit it. I mean, they took a break. It was like a 3 or 4 hour thing, and they took a break halfway. But I didn't see any choppy edits or anything like that. If they did, it was fucking smooth. You know what I mean? It could have been. It could have been.
Well, listen, the amount of money that Mercer makes off this shit.
Oh yeah,
and not just directly off it, but from his Kickstarters and through selling print on demand and PDFs. I'm sure that he hires professionals. It's not some jackass like you and me spending 5 hours after the show editing it. It is somebody who is professional. And I think that shows. The great thing about professional work like that is you don't see the edits, right? Like when you're watching a movie, you don't go,
there's the edit.
It just flows. It feels like a natural progression because they're using multiple camera angles. You know, they've got everybody's mic'd up. So there's a professional staff behind it. Now, more interesting would be to go back and watch the first season or the first.
I did actually, because that's what I said. These are good. I'm going to watch the first season. I watched the first few, and it was like some dude's kitchen with a fucking $50 webcam level.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right. So I said, and that is the difference. Listen, I said this elsewhere. If our old gaming group with you, me, Keith, Greg, and a few other miscreants, if we had put together a web series of our adventures, would they have been entertaining to people? I am sure. How much would have been accomplished in every session? Not much, because just to edit out to get the flow of the game. Because we were role playing, but most importantly, we were having fun. But that doesn't always translate over well to the camera. Therein lies an issue. Because again, when you do something for a web series, it has to be entertaining to the viewers. How entertaining it is to the actual players is secondary. Which is a weird way to look at it if you look at it from a gamer's point of view.
And it's probably scripted. Like, you're right. They do probably script it at this point. Why take a chance?
Well, I would say it is. Again, I don't have any inside knowledge, folks.
Yeah,
so I'm not. I'm going to talk out of my ass and say, my guess is that they come and say, all right, listen, the adventure is about X, Y, and Z. You're going to go in and you're going to go down, and this is what's going to happen in these general rooms. And then it's not word for word scripted. You are getting reactions. But there's no way that the DM is ever being surprised here.
Interesting. Daniel Strange just said the critical role is streamed live. Interesting.
Not edited. Well, they got a great production
team.
Fuck
yeah, man. They really do.
On set, because I mean that is something that if it looks that clean and it's live, so then the scripting, I'm going to go to another level. Before I was saying it's half scripted. Now I'm going to say it's 95% scripted.
You think they must be scripting the dice rolls too for success and failure for dramatic effect? I don't know. I'm not saying don't sue us, Matt Mercer. I have no fucking idea. We're just all speculating here.
This is neither libel or it's evil cousin. We are not saying that. We are again
speculating.
We are speculating. Here, I'll speculate. I just speculated. But it's a guy about the same value of our speculation.
Yeah.
But again, you're dealing with I'm going to use the quote marks here, professional improv
Yeah.
actors or comedians. And,
Definitely voice actors,
you're not going to get that by putting together the old D&D Next playtest group.
Yeah.
Or post playtest group.
Yeah, that's when I joined.
You're not going to get that type of quality.
Mm-hmm.
So
the last couple points that this guy, again, back to where we started, Professor Dungeon Master, the Dungeon Craft guy, he says one thing that's really good. He says, make decisions as a player, make decisions fast so the other PCs aren't waiting. And which goes along with that is anytime you got to look up a rule, like trying to figure out what the fuck goes on, unless you got to ask the DM a question, just fucking look that shit up on your own time. Or rather, while other people are playing. In other words, on your own time, not during your turn. You know what I mean? So if you just look ahead, think ahead, what you're going to do, think about how the spell works, think about how that feat action works, whatever you want to do, and research ahead of time any questions that may come up so you could throw out an answer or a proposed answer and you see an issue with the DM, you know?
Right. Well, and I think, honestly, I think that's what I've assumed, having played with you. I know I would do that when it comes to spells or distance for a missile weapon or whatever else.
Yeah.
As a player, as you're doing your turn, I'm already going through the book and verifying, because I don't want to have to ask Tim or Greg or whoever's running the session. And I've done this with Greg because it's a playtest. A lot of times I'm like, But if I have the rules and I can look it up, I'll be like, all right, hey, listen, I'm going to shoot my bow. How far away is it? 60 feet? All right, so that would put me at medium range. So I'm at -2. I already know.
Yep.
As opposed to, if I shoot my bow, what kind of bow do you have? I got a short bow. What range is it going to be? What's the modifier? Try to come up with as much of the answers to whatever question.
Yeah.
And that's generally, I'm going to say, this is not just advice for in-game. It's advice for life.
Jobs, everything. Yeah, I was just telling somebody that now. And if you want to get a quick yes, give the problem as if it's not a big deal, and then give the proposed solution in such a way they can answer yes to, and then boom, you got a yes more often than not because people aren't thinking.
Right. You already figured out a way to fix this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do it.
It's not on my plate. You figure this out. You think it'll work? All right, cool. You know, if you preface the email with, "Hey, just a quick note on," or just a quick, little thing, just a little, they can minimize it. Anyway.
Right.
Anyway, so that was interesting though. I thought that was really good. Those are some of my biggest pet peeves: is people interrupting another person's turn while they're having a moment. Let them have their fucking moment, and let them do their thing. Think of the other guy. Do shit on your turn to actually, contribute to the game. Don't waste your damn time and everybody else's. Yeah. It's good, and don't fucking interrupt. Again, don't interrupt.
well, listen, and let's be honest. I'm gonna talk more about convention play, because this is, again, random players, and we're talking about a group of improv and voice actors. So and they've established a rapport amongst each other, as opposed to you're dealing with a group of players at a convention, because you were saying sometimes it's easier as a DM to get the game running and up and going without all that bullshitting in front of it. Well, that's a valid point. But the problem with convention games is, since you don't have that rapport amongst the players and you don't have a feel for how the flow of the game is, you are almost going to be guaranteed to have people step on each other's actions and the DM, and it's just part of. Either you sacrifice time up front, where the friends gathering for their weekly or twice a month game session have to catch up, and even if it's a bunch of strangers brought together within 2 or 3 sessions, they've bonded and they are now catching up and what's going on, and get that out of the way up front, or you can have strangers and you're not going to have that same flow in the sessions. That perfect combination is.
What I used to do is I was the late guy, right? I show up to my brother's place for the game, and all the other guys we'd say 7:30 or whatever. I get there 7:45, 7:50, and I get there and I just want to start playing. I don't want to talk. I'm tired. I talk all day. I don't want to fucking talk. So I get there and I just want to play, roll dice and kill shit, take your stuff. So then they start talking. I said, "Didn't you do this before when I was late?" Couldn't you get this bullshit out of the way? I want to fucking roll dice. So I was that dick, you know?
No, you're our dick, Joe.
Yes, yes, I am the dick of the OSR, right? Is that?
If it's not you, it's going to be me.
Who's
right?
the ball sack? I know you're taking a lot of shit now. You said Pathfinder's giving you hell. I didn't listen to podcasts, but I saw the topics. I'm like, oh, he's stirring up a hornet's nest here, man.
But you know what? And it was a hornet's nest that was worth stirring up. Now, and actually, since you've brought up Critical Role, one of the comments that was made about 5th edition is that, well, 5e's success is less due to it being a better rule set, but more due to Critical Role.
Oh, that's what they were saying? So,
so
if they were doing Pathfinder would be just, they couldn't do Pathfinder. If they did Pathfinder to get through one round of combat in 4 fucking hours, and that'd be the whole thing. They'd kill a dungeon in 7 years.
Well, you know, but and honestly, this isn't. I've heard some of the arguments that, well, if Pathfinder only liked Alpha Blue as much as he liked White Star, Alpha Blue would be a platinum bestseller on Drive-Thru. It doesn't work that way, folks. And the influence of one individual or one group does not drive it. Yes, has Critical Role brought people in to the idea that D&D exists that normally wouldn't have?
Yeah.
And but I would say the majority of the people that watch Critical Role don't turn into gamers, but they turn into people that are interested in Critical Role.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll start, buying fantasy fiction. But gaming requires a time investment. Okay, it doesn't matter what game you're playing.
I tell you this though, one thing just a contradiction is that I ran the group in the game store. Right. And it was a brand new group. Everybody came together. It was one of those, hey, I'm going to be a DM. I'll the guy says he had players, no DMs. I said, I'll DM it. I'll show him how to do it. Right. So I ran the group, all strangers, right? There was like 7 people. Right. And when we get together, they're all talking about, everybody's looking for a point of common interest to group bond, right? In the group. This one person brought up Critical Role and everybody started talking about it. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm the only one who didn't know. And this has an age range in this group. There was maybe 6 of the people were in their 20s to young 30s, and one woman was about 65, and she's been playing since before me and you were alive, I think, man. She did way back, in the 70s. And so from all these age ranges, even this woman, she worked as a librarian. She would listen all day in the background at the library, and they all knew what the hell Critical Role was. And I had to ask them after, this is the beginning few minutes. I'm like, what are you talking about? I never heard, and they're all Critical Role. Who? What? And so I had to go watch it. I'm like, this is dumb.
Daniel says apparently Critical Role used to play Pathfinder before it became a stream.
They did. They absolutely did. That was in the first episode. The first episode they talked about that. Yeah, that's true. There's the other thing though. There's probably a good reason they switched to 5e. I think it just came out. They wanted to try it, but they probably realized their Pathfinder it just wouldn't work. It just as there's a flow, it would just take too long. Well,
and again, and I talked about this on an earlier episode I put up on YouTube and Anchor. But here's the thing: Pathfinder First Edition came about because Paizo needed a living game engine to continue putting out their adventure paths.
Yeah,
they had been publishing Dragon, they had been publishing Dungeon, and they lost that license as Wizards of the Coast was saying, basically, we're going to put out a new version of D&D that will not be OGL. It's not going to be under the open game license. We want to regain control of our system. And 4E came out and
their own stupid license.
Yeah.
Nobody used.
The games, actually Goodman Games did. How about the only
did they? Jesus.
Yes. They actually had a magazine out for 2 or 3 issues.
Wow. What it called? This Game Sucks Balls magazine?
You know what? I think I still have the issue somewhere, but I can't remember what it's called at the moment. I'm sure it'll pop into my head when I stop thinking about it. So what Paizo did is like, all right, well, listen, 3rd edition 3.5 is open license. It's open game license. We'll just make a new game based upon this. We're going to call it Pathfinder, which was actually, I thought when I saw the title, name of it was like It wasn't there just a movie out called Pathfinder a few years prior?
There was. I remember that. I remember I texted back then. Those ICQ type programs were around.
Mm-hmm.
I texted who the hell was it? This guy who worked there. He was kind of a big thing. And I said to him, dude, I'm looking forward to it. Thank God. Blah blah blah. 4th edition's like an abomination. But dude, I said the name Pathfinder. Just find something better. Find something cooler. And he didn't like it. He didn't talk to me that much. But
how to make friends and influence others.
Yeah. I basically told him his idea is stupid.
Your idea is dumb.
Oh, I still stand by it. He could have had a better fucking name, man. But
really, it was. That's what it was a response to. So you had a lot of current D&D players that did not want to transition to 4E.
Yeah.
And then they were told, wait a second, the company has been publishing Dragon and Dungeon, a legitimate Dungeons and Dragons licensee, is coming out with their own version of the 3rd edition rule system. Holy shit.
Yeah.
We're on it. And that's why when 4E was on the market, Pathfinder outsold 4E.
Yeah.
Because it had a customer base that did not want to move on from 3rd edition. And they took their customer base. And when Wizards realized that 4E was basically should have been aborted before it was actually published, once they realized the bag of shit they had, then they decided to release 5E.
Yeah.
And 5E...
Whooping their ass, man.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think 5E out of the gate was whooping their ass. I think 5E started whooping their ass once they put out an open game license for 5E, because then you opened it up to third-party publishers. So initially, again, Wizards of the Coast was the mindset of, we want to control the rule system. But once you opened it and then it got embraced by all these third-party publishers, that's when my cat is really crying. But that's when Pathfinder started losing share. Now, even if you don't want to go and say, all right, you can't go by the roll 20 numbers because Pathfinder players have all gone to Foundry, and apparently there's millions of Pathfinder players on Foundry, because we know there are millions of 5e players. There aren't millions of players on Foundry at all. But in any case, look at the ICV2 sales figures.
Yeah.
And they don't tell you, they tell you rankings. You're going to see that Paizo's Pathfinder hasn't been ranking number 1. A lot of times it's ranked number 2.
Don't forget the Big Bang Theory too, man. Beyond the Mercer effect, and between the Big Bang Theory making geekery cool, right, with 100 million viewers a week or whatever, and guys being exposed to things like, because they had many D&D sessions, you know what I mean? One with Leonard Nimoy with William Shatner, rather, for fuck's sake.
Oh, and also didn't Community also have a
little bit, yeah. But that was before geekery was cool. Geekery became cool with Marvel. Everybody who was all of a sudden, into comics and always wear my ass, right? So, and also Big Bang Theory made geekery cool, and D&D was all part of that. And all time with, a lot of it time with 5e.
Sure.
I mean, goddamn, they actually mentioned Gary Con in the stupid Big Bang Theory show. They mentioned that he wanted to go to Gary Con. And everybody's like, what's Gary Con? How do you get better advertising than 50 million viewers seeing something like that,
Come on. Come on, girl. Make an appearance. Better than have you crying in the kitchen. But
sound like she's constipated or something, man. What's going on?
No. She usually has her plush toy in her mouth when she's doing it, and then she wants you to praise her for the hunting that she did not do.
Yeah.
Look what I caught.
All the way in the living room, she caught that on the rugs.
I caught this. No, you didn't. All right, you're gonna lick my finger, and now you're gonna bite it? No, I'm surprised. She's young, so she still nips.
Yeah.
But
so David says they realized exactly that, Joe. Matt said so. And then Wild Die Woodard, that's a new one. Welcome. I never saw your name here before.
I have.
Said, oh, really? Good. The board game boom also helped a lot. Yeah, that's true. There was a lot of D&D board games that came out, Yeah.
Well, that and Euro gaming became very, very big, and a lot more people are playing in game stores. Hell, I was doing Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne with my mother and my wife.
Yeah.
10 years ago. So
they ought to just make. Go ahead. Good.
I was saying, Pathfinder First Edition was a response to a failure by Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
The problem with Pathfinder Second Edition is a response to a success of huge levels
Yeah.
by Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
So it's one thing when you're giving an alternative to something that sucks.
Yeah.
In this case, you're giving an alternative to something that's been embraced by millions of gamers, and the people that have already been happy playing Pathfinder 1, a lot of them, even if you're saying that all these Pathfinder players are going to Foundry, if you look at the numbers that are on Roll20, you see that Pathfinder First Edition still has more players than Pathfinder Second Edition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
the people who play Pathfinder like to crunch. And Pathfinder is the Lord of Crunch. You know what I mean? It's just it's terrible.
Daniel, Lord of the Rings movies actually, if you think about it, but the Lord of the Rings movies wouldn't necessarily sell D&D. They would sell Pathfinder just as well. It's going to increase your market for fantasy games and fantasy role-playing games. So the success for D&D 5th edition is that you went back to the well and you offered D&D players what they wanted, which was something that was derivative from 3rd edition, but less heavy, easier to get into. And let's be honest, the players that left Pathfinder, and there are a number of gamers that left Pathfinder, and this does not mean that Pathfinder is a bad system. I don't want anybody getting their knickers in a bunch, okay?
If you like that kind of thing, it's a good system if you like a lot of crunch.
Right, but a lot of people went to it because it was the only viable system that was supported and living that still felt anything like D&D.
Real D&D,
Even if you felt that D&D 3rd edition was too crunchy, you could still see its roots in 2nd edition.
Yeah.
You could still come along. If you were somebody who grew through the editions, you could make that progression. 4E broke that progression. 4E was like, fuck you. We're doing a new rule set because we want to put the genie of the OGL back in the bottle. We don't want it. We want to control what's published for our rule set.
And some moron probably said too, hey, MMOs are cool. Let's make an MMO on paper. And they also tried to, I'm convinced they were going to, they did have a card-based thing with it, I think, a little bit. But they were trying to, I think, at the time, sort of merge eventually Magic the Gathering along with 4th edition in some way. You know what I mean? It's just, I think they were trying to get to that point ultimately, but it never went there. You know,
when you look at it, you look at 4th edition, and you're like, well, 4th edition, Magic the Gathering made a transition to online and computer play really early on.
Yeah.
And has supported it pretty well.
Yeah.
4E was hoping to survive and make its money on microtransactions.
Yes.
Where using the virtual tabletop that they were going to bring about, and therefore, if you wanted to play D&D, you would have to play using their VTT. You would have these. You need another token. Well, 25 cents for a second orc, or whatever it was going to be. But the VTT never happened. So
they couldn't figure it out.
Was not viable, and
they tried to do it in house, man. That's the problem. Yeah. They should have hired some company to do it for them. Jesus.
Well, they did it in house, and then when you had the murder suicide, go on. That kind of put a damper on.
Yeah, that kind of sucks. But I think the best thing Pathfinder could do is they have what they do have, and I think what they did well, again, for people who like these sorts of railroads, is they did adventure paths, right? And
I think they read really well. I'll be honest.
They do.
For years, I was getting them sent to me, and I was never running them, but I was reading them and going, "Oh, this is a fucking cool story. I can see how this could play out."
But that's the problem. It was a story. It was pre-written. The characters played predetermined roles.
It was an expensive story to support too.
Yeah. But, they had them all the time. But the best thing they could fucking do, I think, Pathfinder, bite the bullet, fucking rewrite every single one of your goddamn railroad adventure paths for 5e. Because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of 5e players who don't look too deeply. They're just casual players. They don't care about the hobby. They don't care about role-playing games. They care about playing D&D once a month with their friends with wine and cheese and crackers or whatever. These types of... They don't know shit about the hobby, right? But... if you had a whole new series of adventure modules that they've never heard of before, even though, Rise of whatever the fuck was 15 years old, they would buy that shit. Yeah. Rise of the Rune Lords, They would buy that shit probably because they don't know how old it is. They don't know it's been around forever. They have an opportunity to rewrite some stuff.
Even if they know it's been around, they've heard about it. They go, "Oh my god, they updated Rise of the Rune Lords for 5e? Holy
And
you know what? You're gonna sell it. you're gonna sell it not just to the game masters, not just to the DMs. Players are going to want to buy.
Oh yeah, that's who bought them before. Pathfinder had more sales to players than anything else because, like you say, they were good stories. And players, if they couldn't find a game, could at least imagine themselves playing this game because the whole thing was laid out for them. What was going to happen? It was the anti-sandbox. They even had back when the OSR was kicking. Remember, they actually came out with a Pathfinder sandbox, which was a railroad disguised as a sandbox. It was so stupid. I actually played one session of that, and I managed to. Yeah, a few guys in my old group that played Pathfinder, and I ducked out because I didn't like it. They invited me for a one time to fill in for some guy, and I get there, and the dude's playing this sandbox thing. Well, I just heard about it. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I get to see, actually, not just reading about it, but playing it first time with a group of Pathfinder players, what it's all about. And I realized that it was a railroad. So I was like, Jesus Christ.
If it's called a sandbox, it must be a sandbox.
Yeah, no, it was a wider railroad. It had a few tracks and a few diversions, a few merges, but it was still a railroad. It just was a little bit wider.
You're going to start at point A. You're going to end up at point M. Yep. But you can go different ways to get there. Yeah. But you will end here.
Yeah, there were 4 side quests that you could do or not do, and you needed to do some of them in order to get the thing to get you to the next thing. Right, so you may have gone a little off the beaten trail, but you're getting back on the trail eventually.
It's not sandboxes. It's not. Yeah. I don't think you know what the word means if you're calling because this is a sandbox.
You know, they also, though, they had a good setting. Paizo put out, was it Galarian, I think it was? Mm-hmm. And it was a well-detailed Greyhawk level setting. By the way, the dude I was talking about before that I said Pathfinder's name sucks, Eric Mona. He's been around forever.
Yes.
He remembered me, dude, from back in the day. For a while, my tagline on N-World was his quote about me. And he remembered me from back in the day, back when I was in like 97, 96. And Greyhawk FTP site, for the Greyhawk Stanford ADU FTP site, I was into that fight so fucking hard because I was a pissed off law student. I was in my second year of law school, I think, and that shit was going on. And I was raging. And basically, I was always that I said, give us the license to let us do it. I came up with I still claim to this day that I came up with the idea of the open game license. I said, you should just give us a license to do things, and that way we're not violating anything. You could find that post somewhere on Usenet. And back then, Sean K. Reynolds, so first there was some asshole who was just like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, destroying all the goodwill on the internet towards them. When Sean K. Reynolds came in, who actually I think works for Monty Cook now, he used to work for Pathfinder, but he came in and sort of mollified everybody's emotions, and he got us to calm down a little bit. But still, Eric Mona remembered me. He goes, oh my God, you're that Joe?
How many Joes are there?
Yeah, so I was like, oh shit, man. Yeah, so he remembered me from back in the day, though, and that was one of my first internet battles. It was all text based on Usenet via Linux. I think I was doing that shit, or Unix. I might have been sometimes on a Unix thing, but yeah, that was fun. That was good times, man. I was pissed off. I was angry a lot back then.
I mean, let's be honest. Bulletin boards and Usenet back. We complain about these bullshit issues on like Facebook and Twitter, but you had that same shit going on forums back then.
Oh yeah,
and I remember I was very active. Actually, this might even be before N-World really became a thing. I was very active on I think it was the BioWare forums because of Baldur's Gate and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was, and I remember there was some know-it-all jackass who insisted that everything
goes along, right? Know-it-all's a jackass. Ever see how that goes along together so well?
And the guy was insisting that, and a lot of people believe everything from AD&D First Edition and prior. Gary Gygax put his name on and then took credit for it, but he didn't really write it. So
Jesus Christ,
I was like, and he's saying all this stuff, and he's quoting. I went, I go, I'm just gonna go because this is before third edition. I'm like, I go and I start pulling shit off my shelves. I'm like, okay, well, how about Lawrence Schick? I go, what about Frank Messner? He's like, what? I go, Temple of Untitled. I go, he's sharing. Now, that being said, there is stuff that Gary put his name on that Gary was more like the overseer. And
I think
didn't
later
do
on,
his work.
especially, a lot of shit he did with Castles and Crusades. He came out with like a 6 or 7 book series.
Oh yeah, but the Castles and Crusade stuff, that was like open knowledge. That was
yeah.
Jeff Talanian.
Not that. I mean, he came out like the Book of Names, it was like all these bullshit books that he put out under his name that somebody else wrote, and he just slapped his name on it, I think.
Oh, I think it was like, it was Gary Gygax's Book of Names. It was like,
it was like his name was on the thing. Yeah.
Tenkar's Tavern, Book of Taverns.
Yeah.
It's similar to that, but because we had on, oh my God, now I'm having I'm feeling my age now.
Senior moment here. Senior moment here, folks.
Seeing a moment. I can't even remember the guest that we had on freaking Wednesday night.
Yeah. I saw that. Is it Winter?
Yeah, Steve Winter. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Steve was mentioning that when it came to Oriental Adventures, although Gary's name was on it, Gary was like, managing it from a distance.
Yeah.
I think he was out on the West Coast.
Was he in the hot tub with the coke and the hookers?
Yeah,
allegedly.
And again, well, actually, I got the stories from Ernie. So,
all right.
But that was a sign of the times. But but the thing is,
he had some good years, that guy.
Cheers and God bless.
Fucking A, dude. Yeah. Like I said, I'd start off with the Galarian. I think a Galarian, that's called. Their setting. In other words, they can 5e-ify that. I mean, look what Troll Lords did, man. Troll Lords had a suite of things designed for Castles and Crusades. Not just a setting, but all these modules and shit. And they just said, fuck it. Money is being made in 5e. I'm converting over. I backed a lot of Kickstarters of theirs just because of that. I could steal from it for 5e.
And here's the thing with the Galarian. If they really wanted to, they could make it system neutral. Because honestly, how much, when it comes to settings, how much of it is rule specific? You could pretty much strip the rules out of it and have system neutral. That's what Frog Guide did when they brought out the Lost Lands core setting book.
The best thing I ever saw, one of the very best things I have that on my shelf that I love and I want to use it whenever I can is, this would be kind of a cool for a setting I could work into the 5e game somewhere. It's fantastic. It was by Green Ronin or Green Ronin, I think I heard it's called. I think it's Green Ronin.
I was called Green Ronin, yeah.
I thought so too. Chris Pramis. I haven't heard much of shit from them at all in a long time. But they were a bunch of OGL 3rd edition people. And they had Freeport, right? They had such a cool thing. It was so cool, and I have 2 copies because here's how cool they were. I had 1 copy of Freeport, and the glue in the seam was bad, so I actually touched base with them, and I said, hey, in an email, I said this is bad. I think I took a picture and sent it over. And his wife, who, their partners, I forget her name. No problem. We'll send you a new one. All right, I'll send this back to you. He goes, no, don't worry about it. Just keep it. I'm like, fucking A. So she just sent me a new one. Sight unseen. I just said I had a problem. I mean, Christ, that was awesome. And so she believed me. I mean, that could have been a picture I found on the internet somewhere that she don't know, but she believed me and she sent me a new one. But they did it so well. What they did was they had the Freeport book.
Yep.
It was a base system neutral book, which was fucking fantastic. And then my brother's there. Yeah, you remember that Freeport thing, the pirates with all the weird sections of town? We were just talking about that. Not only that, they had like a D20 Freeport book. You know what I mean? They had a Freeport book with all the stats of all the people you just read about in the Freeport book. So all the crunch was in a separate little book. Brilliant. You sell 2 books for the price of 1, and the book is system neutral. You use it anything you want to do.
Yep. They also put out, and I was probably one of the handful of people that was actually collecting this stuff. They had out a True 20 or T20, which is their house system built off of the original 3.0 OGL. And I loved it, not so much for the rules themselves, but for all the micro setting books.
Was that the True 20 or something you're talking about?
True 20. Sorry.
Yeah. I remember that. That was pretty good.
But the setting material. The setting material was awesome.
Yeah.
I actually should go back and try to just hack one of those to use with a I don't know, a Swords and Wizardry campaign. But the setting stuff was inspirational. But they also showed that you didn't need a lot of pages to get enough of a setting to bring people into it, to get people excited about it.
Yep.
And the
They
system
did a good
was
job.
and the system was, who didn't really care, because you could have used it with anything if you needed to. But they were also the publishers of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Second Edition.
Oh, are they?
Oh yeah, which reprinted a lot of the first edition stuff, cleaned it up. I own first edition from Games Workshop and Green Ronin's second edition stuff. Great setting, fun rules.
They had a lot of that thing where they would license a particular setting or something. You know what I mean? Like if they could, they would license, put out a version of the game. It was real. They did. What happened to them, man? Are they still around? I don't hear about them. I don't see them. I don't see Kickstarters by them. I see nothing.
Oh God, they're still around. They pop up on. I hate to say it, Twitter. Not that I really look too much at Twitter, but here I'm gonna do a quick.
Well, he used to work at Starbucks, so I could see that.
Well, yeah,
20-some years ago.
All right. So Jesus. All right. So here's the relevance of Green Ronin right now. Yeah. Their Alexa ranking is 3,300,000.
Really?
Yeah. My Alexa ranking is around 165K.
Jesus Christ.
So they're not getting many people going to their site. However, their big licensed title right now is The Expanse.
Oh, they got that? See, that's what they were good at. They can always fucking grab shit like that, man. I don't know how they pull it off, but that's good. Nicole Lindros, I think that was his wife's name, will help me out. All the names are coming to me 10 minutes later, if you notice. I'm losing my brains here. But, no, that's cool. If they got something like that, man, they must be doing okay, So that's cool. That's good.
But they're not getting eyes onto their onto their website, which is surprising. Because usually, I think that Frog God's probably around 750 or 800, and Goodman's probably around 550, 600. Okay. I mean, that they're getting people at their site. I don't know why Green Ronin isn't, but then again, they also did Fantasy Age.
Okay. The RPG,
right. So they're not. They're kind of falling in between of we're our own
type of thing.
Stuff. Yeah. And that you kind of fall in the cracks when you do that. I hate to say it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. At least keep your foot in this pool too. You know what I mean? That way you get some, in case you ever do want to come out with something, people remember who the fuck you are, except us old people,
old thoughts.
Yeah. Speaking of settings, there's a lot to be said for different kinds, right? I mean, the big two, the big one has Forgotten Realms. We all know about that. Right. And then there's Greyhawk, which is more medieval and less whatever. But there's one setting that I become aware of in the last year over COVID, because a lot of YouTube videos later, right? A lot of free time and YouTube videos and rum. But I never played this. And I somehow... back in the day, you played basic so you get to advanced. You never went back to basic again. Everything related to basic was stupid, right? Because it's for little kids. It was assumed to be stupid,
exactly.
Right? So you didn't want to be a little kid. You wanted to play advanced shit and show how smart you were. Because that's what we're all about for D&D players.
Right.
So the entire Mysteris setting was something I was not even aware of until recently. And I'm hearing videos about this, and it sounds like an amazing fucking setting, this is shit that Wizards of the Coast has sitting there in the fucking vault. They have Greyhawk for whatever the fuck reason, anti-Gygax, I don't know what it is, but they don't bring out anything for fucking Greyhawk except tangentially, you know what I mean? But never the setting. Right. And they got Mysteris, which is, I'm looking at these books. I have the complete collection of all the books, because another thing I did over COVID was extra money I wasn't blowing at the bar. I was fucking buying D&D books, so it worked out. I was stocked up, but I had a bunch, and I bought the rest, and I filled out the collection. Amazingly detailed setting. Great shit. Hangs together. Pulls it all in. And it's funny, too. So the Orcs of Thar. Funny shit, man. When I've been listening to reviews, I think the first one that I started listening to was Captain Courageous, right? He does old RPG reviews. He got a lot of viewers too, man. We gotta follow that fucking formula. But he does these things, and he just talks about him. He was a big Mysteris fan. He loved basic. Perfect. He talks about it. Then there's this guy, Mr. Welch, I think it is. Holy
Oh,
shit.
Yeah, and actually, he's done a lot of work on Mastar. I've actually met him.
Yeah. Oh, really? That
Yeah.
dude's amazing. He's a fucking machine. He puts out video after video. He must have 1 billion videos up there, but he's a Mastara god, this guy. He knows everything about it. Big fan, talks about it. And even if you just listen to one of his podcasts about some of the minor aspects of Mastara, because he does break it all down, you can get shit from your own game. So you don't even have to buy Mastara. You don't have to read about it. You don't have to find a PDF. So you just fucking listen to his shit and get some awesome ideas. It's a well-developed setting.
Welch is to Mastara what the Greyhawk Grognard is to Greyhawk.
Yeah, that says it all right there. You know, that totally says it all. Yeah. He just broke something at like 500 viewers or 500 subscribers. Man, where are we at anyway?
We are at 469. So if you're listening, fucking subscribe.
Yeah,
hit that subscribe button.
Hit the like button.
Like the video.
Post some comments. All that shit helps, right?
When we hit 500, you make me open up my virtual drive-through wallet and give away $500 in drive-through gift credit. Yep. So you can buy a lot of the stuff that we talk about and not cost you any money out of your pocket because it would be gratis.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I wonder why Wizards of the Coast just doesn't 5e-ify Greyhawk and 5e-ify Mastara. The material is there. Holy shit! They own the rights. They own the rights.
Tell you that's simple.
What?
All right. I'm surprised that we haven't gotten 5e versions of
Dragonlance,
Planescape.
Yeah. Planescape's huge. There's a huge base of Planescape lovers, man.
Right, but the reason why we're not getting Greyhawk and we're not getting Mystara is they fear it's going to overlap with Forgotten Realms too much, and it's these. And again, don't take it the wrong way. When I'm going to say vanilla fantasy, but they are based on fantasy settings, and the idea is that it could steal, and yes, as David Betzek says, they might be afraid of what TUI did with settings, which is huge. However, the advantage that we have, and thank you, Daniel, for inviting. Why don't you invite your Pathfinder friends too? I'm sure they'll love me, but they think this is a 5e podcast. After that, it's like, well, as a 5e player, I'm like.
Yeah.
In any case,
I do play 5e when I play old school lady, so I don't know, man. I may be morphing.
Listen, I would gladly play in a 5e game. The overhead that's necessary for me to learn to run a 5e game, I don't have the energy.
You can't learn it ahead of time. It's something, even with all my years experience, dude, I had to learn. And I'm not like when I was 15, where I sat in front of the DM's guide, the player's handbook for 10 hours a day. I don't have the time. I got a life, right? But to learn 5e, you got to play 5e. You can't learn 5e, then play 5e. There's no way around it. But, I think David has a good point there. They're afraid of what 2e do with settings. Don't forget, too, settings are for DMs and crunch books are for both. So you make more money, bang for the buck, by producing things that have less fluff and more crunch, because everybody likes the crunch. Well, some DMs like the crunch.
Which is why publishing the setting books systemless expands your options as to who you're going to sell to. Yeah. Yes, there is a D&D settings sale right now over on RPG. Yes, there is.
Interesting.
And it's some classic settings from 1E and 2E. I went over a few of them at tankerstavern.com a couple of days ago. But here's the thing. Now that you have DM's Guild, the deal with DM's Guild is Wizards has said, once we publish a setting, once we've published it for 5e, it is now open for DM's Guild. So if we publish Ravenloft, right? Isn't that the latest? We publish Ravenloft. Now, as a third-party publisher, fan creator, you can now, using the DM's Guild, publish work for Ravenloft.
They're making money off of that, though. If a lot of people publish, they make a piece of that.
I'm pretty sure, though, that somebody has crunched the numbers, and it's like, well, if we release Greyhawk, we're going to shift sales figures from the Forgotten Realms to Greyhawk. We're going to splinter, which is kind of like the 2E effect, which is why I think we're more likely to get the unique 2E settings. you might get Spelljammer updated. It allows you then to go. Because we got
Dark Sun or something.
Dark Sun, because Birthright, if they could fucking
they
figure
ought to do Planescape first. Then they should fucking do Planescape first.
Planescape but you'd have.
I didn't like it, but I could recognize its awesomeness. Not just for me though. Right. That's all.
Yeah, my players. I never ran a Planescape campaign, but my players traveled through the Planescape stuff. Yeah. I used that more than I used Spelljammer.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Spelljammer had its own weirdness. I could understand gates a lot better than I could understand. Flotasm, Jasm.
I never played Spelljammer. I don't know.
So we get taste. So we get these galleons that sail between planets, and they go like real fast. Wouldn't like magic gates make more sense? Isn't that what Planescape is? That makes more sense. So.
I just speaking of settings, man. I'm proud to say that I surprised you about a Kickstarter today, right? Midderlands has got something going on you hadn't heard about. So yes, breaking news to the show.
I did not know that the Midderzine.
Don't get Lola Matt Jackson come in here and yell at you. Zine.
Oh Jesus! I was getting it right for a while, but since Midderzine sounds better than Midderzine,
it sounds more German at least.
Yeah, they got the Midderzine. What is this Midderzine here? Was machen Sie? I supposed to Midderzine. Maybe Midderzine. Could work too, I guess. I don't know.
But yeah, they have a Kickstarter going for Midderzine issues 6 and 7 for the old school zine. And the cool thing is that they let you, because like me, I never bought the first ones. I backed it for a level that gets me all of them. Basically, I get the physical and digital prints of all of them 1 through 7, and it's pretty fucking cheap, man. £22 or something like that. I think it is.
And Glenn does amazing work.
Yeah,
and Glenn and I have been trying to get Glenn for a Friday evening. The only problem is, Glenn's out in the UK, so for us to do it, it's like, Glenn, do you want to come on a show at 2 a.m.? Not really.
Actually, my bad. It was I backed for £37, $53, and all the zines in print and PDF I'll have coming to me. See, that's another setting though. Is that Midderlands? It's another thing like Planescape that I recognize its fucking awesomeness, but I've never bought it because I may have come across a PDF of it somewhere or another in the universe, and I looked at it. And I'm like, interesting, cool, but I don't know. I just would never run it. And there's a lot of good stuff there. Awesome maps and awesome details and a lot of that stuff. But I just haven't done it. And now it's on my radar, though. Now I'm thinking I'm going to maybe jump in wholesale. And if I remember right, the last time I checked their website, you're able to purchase, like, hey, you want to buy everything we ever put out? Here's one lump sum.
The quality of the physical books is simply amazing. Glenn has done awesome work on it, and they are beautiful. And I have I think I have all the quote core hardcover books that he's put out for the setting, including London. It's basically the Midlands is a fantastical England with it's like the serial number scraped off, but I'm sure if I was English, I'd be going, oh, I know exactly where this is.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas opposed to I'm an American and I go, I don't know where the fuck this is, but it's cool. So
yeah, I think the biggest bundle they have is the bundle Watcher from the Shore, and if you do that, £140. I don't know what the hell that comes to in real money, but you get the Midderlands book, the Midderlands map, the expanded book, the Haven Isles map. All this stuff is physical. A Great City of London, Lunden, cards, Game Master screen, randomizer card, the first 3 Midderland zines, bookmark, blah, blah, blah. Like you're buying the whole shebang all at one time if you pick up that. So £140. So that is kind of ish on my radar at this point. We'll see what happens. Maybe next check we'll see. But I gotta save up for fucking furniture here after my move too. So we'll see how it goes. But Yeah, somebody mentioned there in the chat though that speaking of Kickstarters, Old School Essentials is finally starting to ship. Yeah, thank God. I have it being. I just got the notice today that it's shipped, so hopefully soon I'll get that. That was good. That was pretty good. Did you buy into that, man? OSC, the latest one?
No, I got the first one.
Okay.
I got the first one in both formats that they had.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, that might be enough for Old School Essentials for me at the moment. But now just to let you know, Frog God Games has the Swords of Wizardry not the collector's edition, the complete edition of not the faux white box wood grain box, but the regular box for sale on the website. And they also have the essentials pack. The
accessories or something.
Accessories, yeah. I bought 2 of those. So when we do our hangout this summer, I will have something to give to you.
Oh, cool, man! Thank you. That's awesome, dude. I will just buy you booze.
Well, that's okay. Yeah,
I have nothing to give you like that.
I've actually had more. I'll say I've had a number of people, and a number means more than one, ask me how's the adventure that comes with the new Swords and Wizardry set. I'm like, well, it's in the bundle, the accessories bundle, which I did not initially buy, but I have on order, and when I have it, I will post about it.
I was they sent me an email. You have just a little bit of time because you backed. If you want to buy the accessories bundle online, you can at the same price as. And I'm like, all right. But I backed the Old School Essentials thing because I didn't want to. I couldn't figure out what they were selling. Their website sucks. In the sense that you look at what it is. I clicked the link because I was almost ready to buy it, but I couldn't tell what was in it because you couldn't click the link to see. You could only click the link to see the thing load into your cart. You couldn't see the description of it. I was like, God damn it, man! They gotta like little things like that. Just like I was ready to hit the sale button, man. Ready to fucking hit the sale button.
Well, you have it coming, but
now I do. Thank you.
You do, but the Frog God site is better now than it was. I will say that there was a time when trying to navigate it kind of meant that, you know, if you were potentially suicidal, it might have put you over the edge.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it's just like, oh, I don't even have suicidal tendencies, and I'm okay. So I can handle this. This is good. It's apparently having a professionally looking and acting web store is an ongoing process. So I guess the process is ongoing. But
yeah.
I've learned to navigate. But a lot of my older stuff, because I believe that there was not a real porting of the accounts from the old to the new. So I used to have to ask Bad Mike. I think now it's Laramie. You got to reach out and say, oh, listen, I have something on my old account before you guys switched over to the new. I got PDFs that I want to grab that I have had for years.
Yeah.
And then you got to port it over. You know, I guess they port over on demand.
Yeah, as long as you can get them, man. I backed Old School Essentials at the Thief level, which I think was the highest at the time. And so what I got coming is Incandescent Grottos. Looks like it's an adventure, PDF and print. Oh, nice. The Halls of the Blood King, PDF and print, another adventure. Then Old School Essentials Treasures, PDF and print. Carcass Crawler, exclusive inaugural issue, PDF and print. I think that might be a zine sign.
Okay.
And then OSE Monsters, PDF and print. OSE Players Tome Gold Foil, Referees Tome Gold Foil, PDF and print. And then the OSE Reference Booklet Zine, which is fucking brilliant. It's like they took all the tables, right, that you would have to hunt for. They put one fucking booklet zine size thing. It's for OSE. Not that there's a lot because it's OSE, but everything is in one little booklet. That's like looking in the back of the DM guide for the monster table. All the common shit. Remember the Menser basic box that had like those 6 pages in the middle that were just that stuff? This is it. Perfect. Fucking brilliant. These guys are good. These guys are good. Just if you copy anything they do, you can be successful. Essentially, you know.
Excuse me, I'll
nice one.
Just come through. Yeah, I was like,
nice one.
That was my hop tea and my prior whiskey going through. Nice. Well, listen, I don't know if you remember this, but the earlier prints of the Player's Handbook and the DMG for 1E had perforated pages, micro perforations in the back, so you could pull out your weapon charts.
Yeah.
And I did. And of course, then I lost them years later, so my books are missing that. But.
Could you imagine? I mean, as your kid, yeah, I'll rip it out. And honestly, now it's like, don't rip the page. Jesus Christ, it's worth $300.
But not only that, too. Listen, when we were gaming, for me, the hugest thing was my father working for the New York Telephone Company at the time.
Photocopier.
Yes.
Yep.
So I would give him the goldenrods, one of each.
Yeah.
And then I'd get back a stack of like 500, and you'd give them out to your friends, and you had, because otherwise you weren't making photocopies anywhere.
No. There was a convenience store, that Dairy Mart. You remember this Dairy Mart downtown? They had a printer that you could use for 15 cents a page, but it was such a shit, or a copier rather. It was such a shit copier though, man. And plus, it was a Dairy Mart was in the neighborhood you want to be in too often, so couldn't make it down there unless your mother drove you, and your father didn't want your mother being down there too often, so you pretty much were screwed,
Get your photocopies and your nickel bag of crack at the same time.
You know what it was back then? Here's the deal. It was right next to the housing projects, right? It was literally right next to the fucking housing projects. And this guy who owned the store, right? He had a scheme going where because back then food stamps were paper, right? Remember that? Right. Food stamps weren't the digital things you got now. So this fucking guy, from what I could tell, he ordered food for his shelves once in his entire history of being open, right? If you go to his shelves, the food's covered in dust. He never fucking refreshed it because his entire fucking business back then was you got $50 worth of food stamps, they'll give you $25 for them, right? And so he's fucking making money hand over fist. If the fucking food stamp people ever compared his fucking inventory versus what he buys and everything, there's just like a massive scandal. But they made a fucking fortune. They made a fucking fortune doing that.
That wasn't uncommon. Quick side note: 97, I got out of the police academy. Yeah. I was assigned to the 42nd precinct, where they filmed the outdoor shots in Fort Apache, the Bronx. That was the 4-2 precinct where we see all that stuff at the station house. And I was assigned station house security. I'm only out there for 2 weeks at a time. And all right, I got meal. I got to get meals in walking distance. And then around the corner, there was a bodega. So I think I go in there and I buy a sandwich. Yeah. And I order a sandwich. And the guy behind the counter is like looking at me with these wide fucking eyes, like, why the fuck are you ordering a sandwich? And it was like,
that meat's been there for 14 years. We don't sell that.
Oh my God. It was the most disgusting piece of. I get back to the command. I'm like, I can't eat this. Like, what the hell is that, kid? I'm like, I got a sandwich from the bodega around the corner. Like, dude, they sell sandwiches? I'm like, well, it even says it has like call aimer meat or something like that. Like it's pretty nasty shit. Yeah. It's like, you might want exposure number for food poisoning. What? It's like, listen, we're going to be doing a pizza run. We'll grab you a slice because you're not eating that. I'm like, my God. And then you learned, and you had to think, all right, where is it safe to eat?
Yeah.
Literally, it's like, I can walk, 15 blocks to the White Castle. That will be safety.
White Castle, that's a regional thing.
We had 2 White Castles in the command, so that tells you we were rocking.
Wow, nice. I heard you mention Crazy Eddie in one of your shows the other day.
Oh,
there's a limited thing nobody else in the other than in the tri-state area knows. This fucking guy was nuts. This guy. He was. In fact, he ended up something like. He was scamming the universe, right? He always had this guy where he sold like appliances, TVs, radios, mostly music kind of shit. Yep. Back in New York City, Jersey, I think maybe Connecticut. But back then he was like, Crazy Eddie, our prices are insane. And that was his big thing. And he had this Christmas sale in July. He was dressing up as Santa Claus. He was like your coked up crazy ass uncle at Thanksgiving. If your uncle just did an entire fucking 8-ball, this guy was nuts, right? This guy was fucking nuts.
Where I buy my early Commodore games. For my,
But he was all kinds of scandals, and he was scamming everybody. He was like moving inventory from one store to another, like the same group of inventory that people were counting.
I knew. Listen, I always had my suspicions about it, and I was working at Stern's department store in the electronics department.
Yeah.
And we had a new stock person hired. And The first day he's there, he comes up to me and he goes, "How long you been here for?" I go, "I've been here for like 2 years, and I also used to do stock work on the side." He goes, "Yeah, I used to work at Crazy Eddie." I go, "Well, wow, how was that?"
Insane.
So listen, we had a scam there. I went, "Excuse me." So we had a scam there where we would return literally defective items back to the manufacturer as if they were new.
Yeah.
I go, "Run it by me again." Yeah. Sometimes we would just, because they're defective, they don't even have time to look at it. So, like, for the VCRs, we would just send back blocks of wood. So you think we can get that going here? I was like,
Fuck.
"All right, you've been here for a not even a day." So I was like, "All right, well, I said I like the job that I currently have in college." So, and I knew the security manager. I was like, Bob. He's like, and Bob was a retired New York detective with the worst toupee I've ever seen. It was always like askew. It's like, why bother? I was like, "Hey, Bob, you know that new security guy, and the new stock guy we got in my department?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Well, this is the scam he wants to pull here." He goes, "Why?" He's like, "Yeah, all right, we just hired him. We'll just fire him." I'm like,
all right, Eric,
but then I was like,
I got it. Here we are. You got to share this, man.
What is it?
You ready?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I got the audio here too, guys, so let's crank it up.
Speakers, turntables, compact displayer, stereo rack systems, anything and everything in audio equipment. Remember, we are not undersold, we will not be undersold, we cannot be undersold, and we mean it. You don't have to ski cross country to get the lowest sale prices on audio equipment, because Crazy Eddie's Christmas audio blowout blitz is going on now at a Crazy Eddie superstore near you. Crazy Eddie, his prices are... Edison came up with lots of great ideas, but nothing as great as new Crazy Eddie Edison, New Jersey Superstore. Yes, Crazy Eddie's Edison, New Jersey grand opening is going on right now through Sunday. Thousands of free Crazy Eddie t-shirts and
you too can enjoy.
Oh, I love it.
Eddie.
You two rules, man.
Crazy Eddie's grand opening blowout blitz. So come on down to Edison, New Jersey. Thousands of free Crazy Eddie t-shirts and baseball caps. Let Crazy Eddie light up your life with prices that are insane.
I think the Mossad caught up with him in Israel.
That wasn't really Crazy Eddie. That was the actor who played Crazy Eddie. But yeah, actually, I was watching a video on YouTube with Crazy Eddie's chief financial officer.
Really?
Who was addressing like accountants or some shit like that, and was gonna. I was like. And he's basically telling him the rise and fall and how he spent 5 years in federal prison.
Damn.
And now he was one of those people who's been on both sides of the law, and now now I'm using my knowledge for good.
For good, yeah.
Don't do what we did.
Trying to get off of probation. That's what he's trying to do.
When Crazy Eddie went down, they went down hard.
Oh yeah.
We used to have a couple of electronic stores in the metropolitan area here in New York. Crazy Eddie, Tops fell pretty hard. Newmark and Lewis, PC Richards.
Oh yeah. PC Richards still around.
Yeah, well, they actually bought out the assets of many of the others.
Yeah.
I mean,
Newmark and Lewis, I forgot about them.
Yeah. It used to be a lot of stuff. We also had the Wiz.
Yeah.
Nobody beats the Wiz until the Wiz gets beat and put out of business.
Yeah. No shit. Jesus Christ, man. That's true. I forgot about that, man. A lot of good stores back then aren't around anymore, but what are you going to do? Hey, so another topic we were going to talk about last week that we're going to bring up this week. This is more something I thought of here. It's Ivy Shorts just texted me and said she never heard of Crazy Eddie before. How the hell, you, a Jersey girl, never heard of Crazy Eddie before? What heresy is this?
She might have been Southern.
What heresy is this? Oh, she might have been Southern Jersey.
She could have been like the Philly suburbs. Where they were Philadelphia Phillies fans and not Mets the Yankees fans.
Well, I gotta say, Ivy, if you're listening, Southern Jersey girls, I don't think you can call yourself Jersey girls, because unless you were a Southern Jersey girl and you had the big fucking hair, right? The hair. Remember that? The 80s hair? That was just how did Andrew Dice Clay say it? From the back, it looks like a peacock's ass. That hair. Unless you had that fucking hair, then you weren't a real Jersey girl, even if you're from South Jersey, That was the shit, man, back then. That goddamn half a bottle of Aquanet every time you go out to eat. Aquanet hairspray.
I just threw up a little bit in my mouth when you said that.
Anyway, topic from last time that we never got to, that I was thinking about because it relates to what I'm doing when I'm gaming, my setting, is dark fantasy, right? I've been trying, as over time, as my brother could attest to, I've been trying to break the Forgotten Realms as much as I can. So I've been trying to convert it from what the hell it is, which we all know, into more of a darker setting, and I'm reading a book here. And I don't know if you've heard of Grim Hollow, the Grim Hollow. They have massively huge Kickstarters and great setting books, and it's like 5e adjacent. You know what I mean? It's pretty fucking good.
Okay.
But they have these things. It's a grim, dark kind of a setting book, and it's really, really fucking. They have $1 million Kickstarters. They just finished one for their GM guide basically, and they break themes of dark fantasy into several things, right?
Right.
Sort of like just do a quick overview. Grimdark. It's like film noir in a sense that both genres realize there's no truly good heroes. Everyone struggles with impossible moral choices. Everybody, even supposedly good people, are flawed. They the grittier side of realism they look at. You're not looking at the heroic battle as much as the sacrifices made to win. Magic comes at unspeakable costs. That's more of a grimdark thing, right?
Okay.
Then horror. And horror is a whole different thing too. Basically, different kinds of horror, but involves a lot of dread, terror, revulsion, right? So different things. It's more about what you evoke, right? Then there's dark fairy tales. That's the Brothers Grimm kind of shit. Cursed princes who must slay the one she marries on her wedding night. Evil fairies, people who swap their children. The forest where wolves and witches roam. That's more dark fairy tales. And then Swords and Sorcery is the lightest, I think, and that's Robert E. Howard, Michael Moorcock, and I would throw in Fritz Leiber definitely. I think Fritz Leiber is one who fucking coined the phrase Swords and Sorcery, right? So those are like the dark fantasy genres. Now, this is interesting because what this guy talks about is playing in a dark fantasy campaign, and this is what I've been trying to get to, because I like the theme, and they break it down just by giving the topics, right? This is from the Grim Hollow Player's Guide. All right. These are just the headings of each of the paragraphs when they talk about playing in a dark fantasy. 1, the world is lost, right? That's on the total brink of destruction. Something is going to overwhelm the world. What can the heroes do in such a world? How can they exist? That sort of thing. 2, darkness is a choice where demons walk the land, abominations are out there. You're acknowledging the power of the forces of darkness, all right, as opposed to it being something in the background, that you fight once in a while. Number 3, the world is dead, that the gods are dead, which I think is really cool, because when you talk about dead gods and religion and all that gives people hope. When the gods are dead, the world is lost, and darkness is a choice. You got not less, there's a much less hope out there. The next category is magic is mistrusted. The next is travel is dangerous. Even going from village to village, you might fucking die. Humanity is cruel. Legends are not born. Victories are hard earned, and actions matter. There is some light, though, within the darkness. That is what he pretty much is talking about with his setting, with the dark fantasy, and that's the Grim Hollow setting. And I've been trying to bring the Forgotten Realms game I'm running towards that. I think it has a lot of allure.
It does, but I don't know if you can bring the Forgotten Realms into that so easily. I mean,
it's taken me years.
In 3rd edition, we had the Midnight setting, which is supposedly coming back for 5e at some point. Right. And the quick summary of Midnight is pretty much Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth, and the Fellowship Lost.
Uh-huh.
The ring was not destroyed.
Okay.
Evil won. So now it's no longer about winning the war. It's about surviving the battles.
Interesting. That's what I like. I like that kind of thing. I really do.
And so, I again, at the time, I was more into the settings I was finding for 3rd edition than the actual rules, because I wasn't playing at the time. So great settings were inspirational for me.
Yeah.
And that one was like, I was like, oh my God, this is great. And the other one that, as D&D players, we're probably experienced with is going to be Ravenloft.
Yeah.
And Ravenloft is gothic horror.
Yeah.
But it has a little bit of that fantastical folklore horror to it too.
Well, they certainly changed it around now, though. You heard about that, right?
No, I did. And listen, my opinion when it comes to horror, and when I say horror, I am not talking about the horror sticks that it's not Friday the 13th. I don't care what Jason is doing. That's not horror in the way you're going to run a role-playing game, because it might work okay for a single session, but to have a campaign, you can't do a campaign of a Friday the 13th slasher fic. It doesn't work. You need something that's evocative. You need something that has a storyline. And gothic horror, or like The World of Midnight, or what you can talk about, where it's no longer about just fighting the forces of evil. It's about survival.
Survival. It's Mad Max shit. Yeah.
And yes, there are parts of it that works really well. What I liked about Ravenloft is I could always use it when I was running 2E. I could use it as an interlude and have my players drop into Ravenloft and then drop them out. I never ran a campaign within Ravenloft because I always thought a great part of Ravenloft was the players being strangers in a strange land, and xenophobia, which apparently they've done away with in the latest iteration of Ravenloft, because they want to make sure that, well, Ravenloft is almost all humans, but we're going to have Dragonborn and 9 different versions of elves roaming the world as they come in. People should not be looking at them strange. Well, here's the honest to God truth. If you go into a small town and I don't want to defend anybody, but backwater USA, and you're not a local, you are going to experience some xenophobia. It might not be outwardly said to you, but you're going to, and I'll be the first to admit it. When I was a teenager up in the Poconos, and we would spend our summers up there, we were kind of accepted, but I would find myself, there'd be a strange, because our street we live on is in like an extended dead end. In the end, the only feed out is we're right by our house. You'd see a car drive by that you didn't recognize, and you'd be like, "Who the hell is that?" It's like, and it's like, wow, I became a local that summer. It's like I'm looking at New Jersey plates. I have New York plates for my parents parked right in front of the house, but I'm seeing New Jersey.
Yeah, you don't recognize
who's getting visitors from New Jersey.
Speaking of things, though, I mean, it's like Suspicion Outsiders. Look back at first edition; they had the hostility tables between the races. Remember all the this sub race, especially as Unearthed Arcana had it. All the races and sub races, and how they interrelate with all the other. I mean, that's such a setting specific thing, but they hard baked a setting specific thing into the fucking rules.
And now they've taken xenophobia and racial prejudice, or cultural prejudice, or species prejudice, however you want to redefine it in 5e, out of it. And well, then again, I guess you have to, right? Because when you look at the Hobbit movies, right, we have a love interest between a dwarf who looked vaguely elf-like and an elf, and that first
love interest. I never caught that subtext, dude.
Oh,
what do you read? What kind of words in the Lord of the Rings you read, man?
No, not the movie. The movie, dude.
Oh, the movie. You think?
No, the movie. Oh,
Come
yeah.
On. Gimli's kicking it to fucking Legolas?
No.
Legolas kicking it to Gimli? He likes the bears?
No. There was listen, first off, unlike the Fellowship, I only watched the Hobbit movies once each, and
yeah, they sucked.
What's her name? Aerosmith's lead singer's daughter was in.
With Tyler.
The
last time she looked good in any movie.
Yeah, so she's in a movie, and one of the younger dwarves. There's this kind of a hint to a sexual tension going on, and it's like, oh Jesus, they're supposed to have this, even if they don't detest each other, but they distrust each other, right? Yeah. Just like if 30 years ago, if I drove down to Florida, I would probably have been stopped by Virginia State Police because I had New York plates. Yeah. Just to find out what the fuck I was doing.
I got nailed in North Carolina for that. I took the back way down to go to South Carolina. I got nailed for that alone. I know it. There was no reason to fucking pull me over, you douche. Anyway, go ahead.
You know, so I mean, there's these things that they exist in the real world. All right,
Yeah.
there's this fear of different people. Now, I live in Queens. I live in Elmhurst within Queens. Elmhurst, our zip code, I think, has the most diverse amount of languages spoken anywhere within the U.S., if not the world, because the U.S. is a melting pot anyway. So I've never really looked at strangers, go, some stranger walking down my block. I've seen it all. But I understand it from my summer spent in the Poconos, where, again, New Jersey plates. Who's from New Jersey? Oh, somebody from New Jersey moving up here? How dare I'm a New Yorker, and how dare somebody from New Jersey come out here to have a little, bit of the wilderness here? So I can understand it. But that xenophobia is baked into Ravenloft as we knew it.
Yeah.
And to take that out takes out a lot of the tension.
Takes out the fear. I mean, it takes
horror
out the
is tension.
Fear.
Horror, if you don't have tension, you're not going to have horror.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a werewolf. Okay, I'll call it the werewolf. Are you afraid now? No. Look how you said it. It's a werewolf. You go,
Speaking of horror, I just happened to have, because I was going to talk about this too, a PDF pulled up. It was this is from Sandy Peterson's Cthulhu Mythos 5e. So I bought the 5e version of Cthulhu. I've been fucking my brother's characters with it ever since. So it's yeah. So basically, he says Sandy Peterson wrote a beginning part to this, bringing horror to heroic fantasy, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring grimdark and horror at the same time. The horror is coming from Cthulhu shit. The grimdark is coming from primordial gods and blah 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 and all this other shit. Right? That's coming up at some point, but. Interesting. One thing he says is that horror is a delicate topic. When horror is combined with another genre, the usual result is that the other genre wins out. For example, most horror comedies are really just comedies with the horror element. Many attempts have been made to mix horror and superheroes, and again, the end result is just generally a superhero story with the horror elements. And so that's the thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. He says consider the difference between the film Alien and Aliens. The first is a horror movie, absolutely. The second is an adventure movie with horror elements, but both are great films. So if you want his New Enemies, he says this book is good, but you could have things where you make the monsters, make the horror things have personalities that are just foreign. You know what I mean? Just malign, cannibalistic. And that's one of the three things he says. He says there's three basic rules of horror. Number one, don't use jargon, because you don't want to bring the people out of the what the mood that you're in. You know, don't use the game rules. Say things like don't say things like the Shaggoth acts on initiative count of 21. You know, he says basically talk about it in like evocatively, like the creature moves with sickening speed, lashing out with a tendril, dropping with hissing acid. You know what I mean? Always keep him in the mode like that.
Horror is atmosphere.
Yeah,
you don't. You can add bits of atmosphere to your RPGs, and sometimes your players will bite, and sometimes they won't. But with horror, you need atmosphere. If you run Call of Cthulhu without atmosphere, you're just running a fire fest, because all you're going to be doing is killing the players or the PCs, and it's going to be like, okay, you're dead. What happened? Oh, the Zugaloth took your head off. As opposed to the lumbering creatures encroaching on you. You can smell you can smell the rot of its flesh. Yes. That is atmosphere.
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, but atmosphere relies upon you using the player's senses and touching them, not just what they visually see, but you're telling them what they smell,
all five senses,
what they hear. You know, God forbid, like, well, you take a swing with your axe and you nearly lose balance as your offhand touches the shoulder of the creature. You feel an oiliness. It's like, oh, yeah.
A quick interruption here. Ivy is taking great offense that we said she might be from South Jersey. She said she is from North and went to Central, and she did have the big hair. So congratulations, you are. Oh, she says I had the big fucking hair. So yeah, so she is a true Jersey girl. She does like Bon Jovi. I guess that's truth enough. I mean,
all right. Well, then I'm so sorry that she did not have access to a TV in her youth.
God. All right, so we got some corrections here.
I'll get whacked, but you know.
Whacked. We got some corrections here. It says it was in The Hobbit. It was Evangeline Lilly's character, Throndalus's daughter, not Elrond's. It was Killy and Toriel, the Wood Elf.
But it wasn't in the book. That was
not in The Hobbit. I don't remember that shit in The Hobbit at all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was like, listen, they weren't getting it on. There was no love interest in The Hobbit, okay? Yeah. And there was no what do you call it? Sleigh ride from hell either in any of those fucking movies. It's like where the hell does sleigh ride shit come from?
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
It's like
Jesus.
Oh my!
That's why I only watched them once, and I didn't like it. Yeah. Anyway, back to the horror thing. The first rule: don't use jargon, talk evocatively. The second rule: make the enemy malign. Friendly ghosts are not scary. And this is again Sandy Peterson's Cthulhu book, and you need to have them, evil. Basically, they're not good. They're not friendly. You can't bargain with them.
I thought the new Ravenloft that most of the powers are just misunderstood. I could be wrong. I haven't read it. I'm just getting feedback from people who've been bitching and complaining about it that have bought it. And usually those that are bitching and complaining about it are 5e players that came into gaming with earlier editions, 3rd edition, 2nd, 1st, and have experienced Ravenloft in its prior incarnations, and now are getting it neutered. It's like, yeah, and that's a sad thing to say because, and Ravenloft has been. Listen, even Castles and Crusades had a Ravenloft ripoff, The Tainted Lands, which I might own, but I don't think I've ever read. And I've called it a Ravenloft ripoff, and Jim Ward has been not too happy about that being called a Ravenloft ripoff. But
I mean, if it is what it is. If it is a ripoff, then you got to fuck. I mean, at least admit your influences.
All right. Maybe I should have said it's a homage. But are you going to come back and come on camera again, Kitty?
Oh, by the way, Abby says she up yours, Eric. You are going to get whacked.
Yeah, I told you she's a Jersey girl. All right,
Jersey girl.
She's proven it. Remember, Sopranos took place in New Jersey.
And all she's got to do is put that Aquanet in her hair and get it all poofed up, dude. That shit will stand a baseball bat to the head. You won't even crack the skull. That stuff is. My sister used to put a fucking can in every time she went out somewhere. It's like the entire fucking house filled up. But I lost 5 years off my life because of fucking Aquanet. Whenever she went out, it was ridiculous. It's fucking insane. Like Crazy Eddie's fucking commercials. Her hair was insane.
Well, there you go.
Third rule: use a mundane setting. All right, so. Put the stuff in a setting that's normal, because if you put it in some weird creepy ass shit, that's just, you're expecting it, right? But when you're living in the normal, when you're in a normal, simple little village, the village of Hamlet without the temple, picture that. It's just a simple, basic little village that gets to travel once in a while from caravans. And then you drop the Dunwich horror in there. You know what I mean? Then you drop the shit from Alien in there, stuff like that. When you have a normal, simple, basic hometown kind of feeling, and then you drop horror in it, it's much more intense. So I agree. I fucking agree. I want to introduce all that.
I'm not disagreeing, but it's gonna be hard for you to do that in the Forgotten Realms, because
I've been doing it little by little.
I know, but see the difference between Greyhawk and the Forgotten Realms, when it comes down to it, is Greyhawk is lightly detailed and you fill in the blanks, whereas Forgotten Realms is we filled in all the blanks, so you don't have to.
Not mine, because what I did was I remember. Do you remember? I don't know. Not many people know this. I remember back in the day, but Forgotten Realms came out, the first gray box version.
I loved it,
and it came out for first edition. That's what I use. I use Greyhawk, rather the gray box first edition.
Yep.
And some of the supplements that they came out with soon after. detailing like Waterdeep and Callum Shannon, a few places like Savage Frontier, and I stole that. I literally am using all of that stuff. So the earlier Forgotten Realms stuff, like the fucking gods, Kellamvor and Maestra, none of that shit even happened in my world. You know what I mean?
No time of troubles.
Nothing. The Time of Troubles is what broke it into second edition, right? And so that's when they came out with all that shit. So I don't do any of that.
The fiction books weren't bad, but my God, the adventures that went along with
terrible.
it. Oh my God. And for first edition and second edition, oh my God.
Yeah.
Although, as Steve Winter said, by the way, which I found very interesting, I didn't know this, one of the design tenets of second edition is that you had to be able to run the first edition adventures with it.
Really? Interesting.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense. You want to, there's a lot of shit on the shelves. People want to be able to buy it. You know what I mean?
That was it.
Yeah. No, the novels did suck. My brother said novels sucked. Yeah.
The first two were pretty good, all things considered. And the third one sucked because although they were all written on the same pen name, they were written by different authors.
Really? I didn't know that.
I forget who
it was like.
the first
what were the books? There were like Tantris and Waterdeep and one other one. It was the very first Shadowdale.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what though. The second edition. Here's the one good thing about second edition. The box set came out, and they had one entire booklet devoted to Shadowdale. Liked it. Really, really liked it. It was excellent. I used it as a basis of a campaign. I put like 50 fucking hours of work into developing the campaign. My brother ran characters in the campaign, and he died real fast, so that was the end of that. So I put 5 times more time into setting up the fucking campaign than we did playing, I think. So that was the end of it.
A lot of times that's what happens.
Yeah. I put a lot. I was so looking forward to it. I still have the whole folder. Someday, TPK, 5th edition TPK. You know how hard it is to fucking TPK in 5e? For fuck's sake. You know, it's impossible, but it fucking happened. It was completely shit rolls. Over and over shit rolls. They didn't do anything wrong. They were just shit fucking rolls. They should have been able to mop the fucking floor with these assholes, you know? Yeah. Shadowdale was a great fucking book. Now, here's the other thing people talked about is Ravenloft. How does 5e fit Ravenloft? You can't fucking die in 5e for the most part, unless you got really bad luck with like my brother. You can't fucking die. How is Ravenloft scary if you can't fucking die? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like an oxymoron. You ever hear the analogy between, or that the joke? If it's like a paradox. If you have Star Trek red shirts who are fighting stormtroopers, who would win? The answer is who the fuck knows, because the red shirts have to die, but the stormtroopers can't hit shit ever. So how does it happen? Right?
Actually, but you know what? The red shirts can actually shoot stormtroopers. Cat, I don't know how you move my camera.
They can, but they have to die. That's the role of red shirts. So while they have to die, the stormtroopers can't hit them. What's going to happen? Yeah. We've had multiple. Well, don't forget, we've changed 5e though. I've changed 5e to make it a little bit harder and whatnot. But yeah, it is 5th edition, my version of 5e. It's true, but still, it's still 5e, man. You still got death saves for fuck's sake. You know, that's the biggest thing in 5e to prevent you from dying. That and poison is no save or die. You know, those are the 2 biggest things 5e has: death saves and no poison or save or die. That's keeps you alive all the time. You know. Yeah.
I hear the glass jiggling with the ice.
It is jiggling away. Private stock, man. Private stock. Yeah. But that goes back to the setting thing that we were talking about before, in terms of what is your preference for a setting. I mean, there's a few different categories, right? If you look at high or low magic, right?
Right.
And are there pantheons and portals and that sort of thing related to the high magic? And then I think the second big category is how developed is it? Like you're mentioning, Forgotten Realms is so well developed. Greyhawk wasn't. I don't know. That may be in essence of they didn't have much time with it or whatever, but it's just not as well developed. But I think definitely Forgotten Realms is high magic. Galarian is super high magic, the Pathfinder setting, right? Planescape was mid magic. I think there wasn't much other than the fact that you're traveling the planes. That was a high magic aspect of it, right?
Right.
But what do you prefer in the setting? What do you want? What's your ideal?
For me, I would low medium magic, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I want the I don't want it where +1 and +2 swords are falling out of everybody's pockets.
What about magic stores?
No,
that's a big deal. How about buying a potion of healing, the lowest version of potion of healing?
Yeah, potions of healing, I would say you could find because they're probably not going to be necessarily magical per se. These are things that are going to be brewed by an alchemist. So,
Alchemist, not a cleric. You're taking away the clerical role in healing, huh?
no, the cleric still has the heal spells, but I would say an alchemist will brew these things from herbs and stuff. I think that allows it to not necessarily be magical per se, which again allows you to keep the magical idea of we're gonna have magic stores. I don't like the idea of magic stores. Now does that mean that if the players are in a brick like a knick-knack store or whatever, or the it's like, oh look, somebody's hawking their +2 dagger or magical dagger. Well, but you don't know. Maybe the guy who's selling doesn't know it's a magical dagger.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
it's there's different ways, but that's how I would rather do it. But I've always been somebody who's preferred to do a lot of.
You know what would happen though if that were the case, man? I never had thought about this before, but I'm a book maniac. I don't know, you guys. I mean, I had a move recently. I had about 3,000 books. There was almost 200 boxes of books I had to bring with me and unpack and yada yada. And the D&D books were the first unpacked, I must say. All right. So anyway, I had all these fucking books. And now when you're in the book world, right, I go to used bookstores. I look for books that are worth something. And there's a whole world of book collecting, right? Within the world of book collecting, it's, you look for certain things that show you how much the book is worth. Now, there are these people called book scouts, right? They exist in this world. This actually might be relatable to D&D in a sense, in some way, is what we're talking about here, because book scouts are not bookstore owners, but they're book geeks in the sense that they're not necessarily readers, but they know what to look for in a book. They know that the first edition Hemingway, Who the Bell Tolls, you could tell it's first edition because there's a thing here. And you could tell that only 300 were printed wrong with the typo on page 37, and that makes it worth 5 times more. They know what to look for when they see these books on the shelves. They're just geeks with books, right? And so if you ever had a situation where you as a DM would allow junk stores or pawn shops or Sanford and Sons fucking store to sell a +1 dagger, nobody knew it was +1 dagger, you would have magic users, the book scouts of your world, because the first level magic user has detect magic. All he's got to fucking do is walk into these stores with a detect magic going. His eyes are glowing red, and he's looking all around. And instantly, he snaps up that bullshit. He's like, oh, that's glowing magic, right? He snaps it up. He doesn't know what it is because he hasn't identified it. But boom, he's buying it.
Here's the thing. You couldn't have those stores in Waterdeep. You couldn't have those stores in Greyhawk. But could you have that at the General 5 and Dime in some backwater place? They have no fucking clue.
That's true. That's true. Somebody just found the dagger. It looks corroded. They don't know that's a dagger of acid damage. You know what I mean?
Like, who the hell knows? But again, I always like the idea of having unique magic items, because also when you give out a sword that has a unique power, even if it's only +1, but has some unique ability, which may or may not be all that great, your players are more apt to want to keep it. But it does this cool thing that in the long run might not have a huge effect, but it's cool.
I've told my players that basically there's no magic stores. That means you also can't find a place to sell a magic item, because if you have such enough magic that you can sell off the magic sword +1 because you got the +2 one, then that makes you a fucking target. If you're it's like advertising a stash of diamonds. Magic is so rare just because you have enough that you're able to sell. Magic is still rare enough in the world that if you advertise that you have some and you're so fucking rich with it that you want to sell it, that basically what's going to happen is you become a target for the universe. Everybody's coming after you, right? And so that's the thing. No magic stores mean magic is rare enough you can't fucking sell it. It's just not going to fucking happen, Every thieves guild in the world is going to try to steal that bullshit from you. So that's the thing with the magic, it cuts both ways essentially, And so magic items, if you got the +1 sword and you got the +2 at 15th level, you still got the +1, give it to your henchman, to your hireling, to your to your main man, somebody you want to bribe, the king who you want to get on your good side, whatever the hell it is, do something good with it within role play.
But I want to sell it for 2,000 gold pieces.
That goes back to gold for XP.
Yeah, and then if I keep the +1 sword, it's 400 XP. But if I sell it, it's 2,000.
Bingo.
The party's like, sell it, because then we can all split the money and we all get 400 apiece for the 5 of us.
Yep, and we can level up. If you keep it, we can't level. If you sell it, we can. Sell that motherfucker. We'll get another one later.
What's your charisma? 12? Oh, you can only get 1,800 for it. Oh, shit. Now I won't level.
Yeah, but I still got gold for XP, man.
Give him more money. So.
Gold for XP is still the shit for me, and I can't convert my 5e players to do it. But gold for XP is the thing that sets the tone of the game more than anything else, because the game becomes more about the treasure than the killing. In 5e, I give milestone things sometimes. That's a thing I do. I never did before, but I appreciate it now, and especially with 5e, I think you kind of need to. But gold for XP would be really cool to do, because I think it would set the tone of the game. It's more of a swords and sorcery game more than anything else would ever do. It would make it more like a Fritz Leiber's Fafhrd and Grey Mauser game, or Conan. Conan looked for the gem. He didn't want to fight the fucking snake. He wanted the goddamn gem. So that's Conan all around.
Avoid, and that's the way you think about it. It should be.
Yeah.
And with a more lethal system, like
save or die, man. You don't want to get bit once.
Right. 5e though isn't as lethal. Therefore, you can change what gets focused on. You can change the focus. Oh, well, it's not as lethal. Therefore, it's like, oh shit. We're moving it to a different direction because we've moved the focus. Interesting.
I think you need to have a certain tone, and like I said, if you start with a setting like Forgotten Realms, I've been trying to change the tone by changing the style of setting. It's been several years long, and I've been doing it slowly over time, so that's gradual. I'm just not going to break it because nobody would start playing it. But if I gradually, they evolve along with the players, the setting evolves, and that's a different thing. And it's been 6 years of player game time, 6.5 years, and 2 or 3 years of our time, I think, that I've been taking to do this. So. Yeah, of character game time, I should say 6 years of character time. So it just takes a while, It just takes a while. Yeah. Valbin 666 says I have the book talking about the Shadowdale book. You liked it, yeah. It's a good fucking book, man. Shadowdale's a good. Within that, they didn't overdo it. There wasn't Drizzt didn't overtake everything. It was still.
It's funny because at that time, TSR was putting out fiction left and right. A lot of their stuff was being written under pen names.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't uncommon for me to read a trilogy and enjoy the first 2 books in it. And the third one, it was like, what the fuck am I reading?
Yeah.
Because although it's the same person theoretically writing it, it isn't. And it just crashed when you got to that end. A lot of time. And that was the case in the... with the Time of Troubles. The first 2 books had a lot of characterization, a lot of I thought were enjoyable reads. This wasn't high fantasy. Don't get me that. This wasn't classical writing here. This wasn't,
no. It was hack writing.
It was good hack writing. It was
good hack writing, but it was just the story sucked ass.
And then you got to the third book, and the third book had to wrap everything up and give you the change that rebooted the setting, and it felt so forced and did not feel like a natural progression from the prior 2 books.
No,
and you could just see, wow, it's a different author. I don't care whose name was on it. And now in the age of the internet, I can go back and look to see who really wrote what. Actually, I think Troy Denny might have actually written the first 2, but I don't think he wrote the third one.
What was a great thing that worked out was Ed Greenwood had a series that he was the dude over the series. Let me get these because I don't want to misquote anything. Give me 1 second. Sing the Jeopardy theme song as I grab these books because they're in the bag 3 feet away from me. All right, I'm back. Now, these are the books I lent to my brother 3 fucking years ago and he didn't read. They were some of the best Forgotten Realms books I've ever read, honest to God. And I read them at least twice at this point. Now that I got them in my hands, I might read them again. Because it was R.A. Salvatore, Forgotten Realms series, War of the Spider Queen. There was a 6-book series. I bought them in hardcover, some girl off of fucking Craigslist for like nothing. Amazing books. And they were all written by different people. Book 1, Richard Lee Byers. Book 2, Paul Kemp, book 3, Richard Baker. I think I've heard his name before, right?
Right.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. Paul Kemp wrote book 6. Baker wrote 3. Book 2, Thomas Reed. Book 5, Philip Athens. And book 4, Lisa Smedman. Now, they told a story of Dro in the Underdark, and they were evil. And there was no fucking bullshit about, oh, they were really good, but, no, they were fucking evil.
Only a small selection of Dro are evil. Everyone else is good and kind-hearted.
Evil motherfuckers, and it was set in the Dro society, and backstabbing and betrayal was part of it. Even though some of them, there was actually one who was kind of goodish, and there was a little love story, but it was still a love story set amongst the Dro. It was family squabbles set amongst the Dro, and I guess you call them Drow. I call them Dro because they call it Zines.
I call them Drow, but I think there's some Machiavellian type of intrigue going on here.
It's amazing, and it's amazing on the highest levels of high fantasy because the characters are all mid to high level to start the books off, right? They don't start low and he becomes something, and it starts in an epic quest. I mean, if they ever fucking converted these books to some sort of railroady style adventure path, it would be fantastic.
Well,
it'd be fucking fantastic. I mean, but this was a great series of books. I just got it back from my brother after several years. He never fucking read them. I don't know what the fuck. I mean, he must have like a family or something like that, so I don't know. He says I converted Silvery Moon to 1800s Pittsburgh. I did that.
Saw that.
I check this out, Eric. You can share this. You can share this screen. This is what I did. And thank you, Matt Jackson, for helping me with this because I found this image on some library site and you couldn't download the whole image. You could only download pieces or something. You know what I mean? And then he actually put it together for me. So the first time he mentioned Matt Jackson in a podcast or YouTube video without busting his balls, this is very, very wrong. This is very wrong. We can't have this.
This time you're cupping them. All right.
I don't understand it. Yeah, I must be drunk. Anyway, share this map.
I must be drunk.
Found this map of Pittsburgh 1,000 years ago, right? And look at it, because this is 1795 Pittsburgh. And I called this, I morphed a little bit of the map of Forgotten Realms, and this is Sundabar, right? You got a Silvery Moon. You got I didn't like the whole Silvery Moon, illustrial bullshit. I made it into, because it's a town centered around a bunch of mining areas, right? And so basically what it is was I figured this is going to be, I said to myself, it's kind of like Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? It's like a mining area, steel ore, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of like Pittsburgh. And I'm like, you know what? Let me find a map of Pittsburgh. So I look for old maps of Pittsburgh, and boom, there we go. So it's two rivers join up there, right? You have the old, it's like a city, right? And you have the manufacturing center. You have the rich person area. And over here, you can see my cursor, I guess. You have right here the fort that it might have started on or as. You know what I mean?
Okay.
At the point. And then you got these little islands in the river, and the docks are over here on the Monongahela River or whatever. It's just cool shit, And so I grabbed this thing, and I'm like, this is fantastic. They even break out the frontier fortifications, Fort Pitt, So that's
right.
It's a perfect fucking medieval city, and it makes me think there's so much out there that we could probably find like this that would work for people, that they could actually use. And yeah, that fort does exist today. They probably like a tourist attraction. Back then it was made to, defend against the wilds of the area. You know what I mean? But it's just kind of a cool thing, and I'm glad to have it.
$10 access fee, and you too can check out the fort.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was pretty cool though to think, that's out there, and I just fucking converted it over. Now it's Silvery Moon.
Nice.
Now it's a manufacturing almost. They take the ore and they build and they do whatever they got to do with it. So we can't figure out the name Pitt's Moon or Silvery Pit or.
It's got to have a pit in it, but yeah,
somewhere it's got to have a pit, Silver Pit. I don't know, but it's kind of neat though. So. Just little things like that. Like I say, I changed the whole thing. I break the system. I break the setting just to make it the way I want it to be. And it's a long-term thing, but it'll happen. Oh yeah, there's a Virgin Alley. That's true. It's actually called Virgin Alley. Of course, that's where all the whorehouses are. You know what I mean? That's where you put the whorehouses, on Virgin Alley. It's the perfect place.
It's a Virgin Alley.
Yeah. So, dude, we got almost 2 hours in, man. We're doing pretty good.
We did pretty good. And we kind of stayed on topic.
Yeah, or multiple topics, but at least they were D&D related.
Yeah. Go figure that one out. Don't get spoiled. We don't do this.
I know. Don't get used to this shit, man. But we got to figure out a time to go to New York, man. And we talked about it, but when it gets Dwayne, I don't think he's here in the channel, but whenever Dwayne comes up, we should definitely do it. You know, he can definitely hang out. You know, him and his wife are coming up. His wife's never been to New York. She wants to go too. So cool.
All right, it'll be fun. Next week I'll be at North Texas.
Yeah.
So anytime after North Texas, I am pretty much available. At some point in late June or early July, we'll be doing the yearly gathering of my old gaming group. But
that's
we can't
cool.
figure that shit out right now. Everyone's like, well, you get like 6 guys. It's like one guy's like, no, that date doesn't work. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
All right.
What about Poconos? You still looking to get a place up at the Poconos, or has that been on hold because of the fucking stupid ass housing prices now since COVID?
It's put on hold. Actually, I put that on hold, and I was going to trade my car, and I was like, well, it looks like inventory is kind of low on the Subarus right now. I go, I'll just bring them for my 45,000 mile whatever the tune up checkout, and I was expecting like bringing in for that shit. And you're like, how much am I going to spend on this? I got to get the window fixed. There's a rattle in the back, and it's like, oh, well, we didn't have to do too much. I go, excuse me. Well, you've only put 3,000 miles on it in the last year. I'm like,
it's true. It's been nice. Like, I did one oil change all last year.
Yeah. So it's like they did the oil change. The squeaking in the back was apparently the heat shields that they installed under warranty last year needed an adjustment. Yeah. And my window's going to be $345 to replace the switch. They had to order that. So I walked out paying less than $100. I was like, I thought I was going to be paying like, because you figure they got to find stuff. No, I was like, wow. My dealer is an honest dealer. I'm not used to this shit.
Go figure. Jesus Christ, man.
Go figure it out.
Breaks all the stereotypes there.
Yeah, I was like, wow. I actually feel not taken advantage of and bent over backwards. So we'll probably trade the car in like a year from now. It's a 2014. It's a Subaru. It runs well. Yeah. But my parents have a 2020 and they got it right before COVID struck, and my God, the camera, the reverse camera in theirs, like mine. If you have any sunlight hitting, you can't see shit. Theirs is amazing. I was like, oh, I need to do this.
You're gonna do it
at some point, but next year.
Yeah, I bring up the Poconos because I remember you were talking about the place and you were gonna have a big old fucking Poconos D&D Friends convention thing. That'd be fucking fun, man.
That would have been great, and. Literally COVID hit and I got sick, and then all of a sudden I was like, well, geez, if we had bought it, I would not have been able to go up for like 4 months after buying it.
I remember sitting at the bar. You had the brodures on the web, and you were looking, show me. This is the one you're going to get. And I already picked up the bedroom I was going to sleep in, man.
Yeah, we made an offer.
Yeah,
we made an offer. Yeah, we made an offer. Damn. They were asking $150, and I was like, listen, it's $150. It doesn't have a refrigerator. It has a place for a fridge, but the staircase we had to get replaced because it was one of those spirals that were like a really cheap spiral staircase. Yeah, which I panicked when I was like, this isn't gonna be good. So I was like, I have to replace that. So we offered
those are expensive too.
Yeah, we offered $142.5, and they said no. I was like, well, I'm not budging on this. And then what happened is COVID struck, and nothing sold. And then like 2 months after COVID hit, everything was selling.
Yes, for like $242.5.
Yeah, well, I think that one sold for like $165. There was like a small bidding war on it because everybody wanted to get out of the urban areas.
Connecticut exploded with people from New York. We had like 20,000 people from New York City moved in here, man. It's amazing.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But this year I've gotten to enjoy my backyard, and I put in a raised vegetable bed. So I don't have to. So it's good. It's good for my sciatica. Yeah. I don't have to bend over. I can actually garden standing up. This is worth the investment. But and we put like fresh sod in. It actually looks like I put this on Facebook, but it actually looks like a piece of I don't know, not saying heaven, but it looks like parkland within the 5 boroughs. So I'm happy with
nice, man. That's good. You got a good place there. That's cool.
Yeah,
I'm glad. Yeah. So, anywho, we've gone from D&D killing shit, taking us up to gardening talk. So it's time to go. I think.
Yeah. I think maybe we've hit our moment. But folks, as I say on all the live streams, on all of the on all the videos, neither myself nor Joe, we are not medical professionals. However, COVID is out. It's there. It is real. I am not telling you what to do. I'm not saying get vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. You have to make your own decision, your own choice. You know your, you know what risk you're putting yourself and your loved ones at. Make decisions that keep yourself, your family, your friends healthy and safe. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice. Light knocking on wood to not annoy people too much. And I will be back tomorrow with my lovely wife, Rach, as we do Gamers Health.
Nice.
So join us around 8 o'clock tomorrow.
Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the comments in the chat and all that stuff. And hit subscribe, hit like, all that good stuff and comment if you liked it, because we do read the comments afterwards, so we bring up stuff from them in other videos. So
yes,
definitely.
and if you're offended by me saying that Pathfinder 2 is not getting the fan base that Paizo would like it to get, I'm sorry you're offended by that. It is definitely a reality.
Yeah.
When you put out a new edition that's in response to another game's success. So
yeah, and they got the humble bundles out there too for it, everything for it. I mean, that shows. And the other part of humble bundles being out there too, dude, is if you got the Trove. Not that I go there ever, but if you got someplace like the Trove, you can get it all for free anyway. For if you're of that certain type of mindset, right. So they figure, what the fuck, we'll put it out for $25. At least we'll get some honest people who feel guilty for downloading it for free. They might buy it,
And folks, here's something. I had a comment on one of my quotes about the. Post about Pathfinder, and it's like, oh, well, if you can just move that slider to give all that money to charity, so that's what you should be doing. They changed that, folks. So the amount going to charity is fixed. The amount going to the publisher is fixed. The amount going to Humble Bundle is basically fixed. You can't give it all to charity. You can't give it all to the publisher.
Yeah.
So if you don't think that Paizo is making a shit ton of money off of Humble Bundle, you don't understand the method of man behind Humble Bundle. I'll do an episode, a YouTube on that one day, a short one, and explain the mentality behind Humble Bundle and what it gives you as a publisher.
Because I know that you said that other people make, I don't know, I won't say who, made a lot of fucking money off of Humble Bundle.
Yes.
And I was impressed at that. I didn't realize that was a thing. I didn't realize it was that much you can make. So I'd like to hear that.
It's a large. I will give my insights, and then people can tell me again, you're bad mouthing Pathfinder. No. All right, folks.
All right. Later, guys.
We are out of here.
All right. Have a good night.